Plenty of butter, please.
Yes, sir. The way you always like it.
Hi there. You know, this is one of my favorite times of the day here. Just about sundown. I like to be around when the lights come on. It seems like a new kind of magic takes over in Disneyland after dark. Now, we got a big night. Satchmo Armstrong's going to be aboard the Mark Twain, horn and all. Then there's the Tahitians. I don't want you to miss them. They're in Adventureland. We got a firewalker and girls, too.
Pardon me, Mr. Disney, but could I have your autograph?
Oh, sure. Hold this one.
Okay.
You mean on here?
Right on top, please.
On top? Bird's eye view, huh?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now, there are going to be plenty of things to see and do.
Hey,
most of all, you're going to see a lot of people having a lot of fun.
May I have your autograph, please,
Sure.
Mr. Disney?
Here you are.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like I'm stuck here, so why don't you go on without me, and I'll be catching up with you somewhere along the line.
Now you might be wondering what I wondered when first making this documentary. How did Walt Disney get so successful? Well, I decided that for this documentary, I'm going to look in how he arrived in Hollywood and how he became such an overnight success. Now, I think the only good way to start this is if we put ourselves in Walt Disney's shoes real quick and explain where his head was at when he had first moved into California. So imagine being born in Chicago and moving to Missouri with your family when you were little. And then you try to create a successful cartoon studio in Missouri, and you put all of your heart and soul and passion into it, and then you had to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And this short that you're seeing right now is actually the last thing he made at that studio in Missouri. And then he has to go to Hollywood with only $40 in his pocket. And this short that you're seeing right now is known as Alice's Wonderland. And he makes a deal with Margaret Winkler and a studio to make 6 more of these as he's moving to Hollywood. And these will be known as Alice Comedies. And as if that wasn't stressful enough, Walt needed a place to live since he didn't have enough money. And that is where his Uncle Robert comes in. His Uncle Robert actually allowed him to live in his house for a while. And do you remember the Alice's Wonderland short that I mentioned earlier, that he had to present to Margaret Winkler to get those Alice comedies approved? Yeah, it wasn't done when he moved into Hollywood. He actually had to finish the rest of the animation in his uncle's garage. And also, some of the Alice comedy shorts, Walt Disney's first successful series, was actually filmed in the backyard of the uncle's house. If Walt's uncle wasn't kind enough to let him stay in his house and do animations in his house, we probably wouldn't have the Disney company as we would today. So I just want to say thank you, Uncle Robert, for letting Disney do this, and I truly appreciate you. Now I want to show you my reaction to see it in person and what it looks like currently right now. This is where it all started. At his aunt and uncle's house. Right now they're doing construction on it to restore it back to its original, like, glory days, basically. So right behind this house, there's a shed, and that's where he started making animations, in the backyard shed.
How's it going?
Good, how are you? Good. This is where it all started. Disney Animations, right here. This right here was Walt Disney's first ever studio. This is where he made the Alice comedies. This whole building right here was his first ever studio. Wow. The current company that owns this building even put like a bunch of Mickeys on the windows to show that this was the first ever studio. Pretty cool that they decided to do that. The studio was actually known as the Disney Brothers Studio, and the person you see in this picture to the leftmost side is actually Ub Iwerks, the person who will create Mickey Mouse with Walt. Things were finally looking good for Walt. His Alice comedies were a success. He had met his future wife because she was an employee for him at his studio. And he was starting to become popular in Hollywood. Until the two antagonists of this story arrive. This is Carl Lamley, and he was the co-founder and he was the owner of Universal. He wanted a guy named Charles Mintz to ask Walt Disney to create a character specially for Universal. And since Walt is such a nice guy, he decided to create one of my favorite characters ever. Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald was such a successful character that Charles Mintz and Carl Lamley decided to take ownership away from Walt. And so Walt lost not only Oswald but also the Alice comedies because they were technically the property of Universal. They even took all of Walt Disney's animators that worked with him. The only person who stayed behind was Ub Iwerks. As you can tell by this photo here, Walt Disney and Ub Iwerks would create the most famous cartoon character of all time.
During the last few years, we've ventured into a lot of different fields. And we've had the opportunity to meet and work with a lot of wonderful people. I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse.
When Mickey Mouse started taking off and became a success, he sent this picture to the head of Universal, and it said, "In memories of the day when I produced Oswald for Universal." Wow. This is where Walt Disney's second studio used to be. The Hyperion studio it was called. It was given to him by Universal. This studio right here is where Oswald the Lucky Rabbit was made. He ended up losing that to Charles Mintz at Universal. This is where he created Mickey Mouse as a result of that. The early Mickey Mouse cartoons were made right here. The other things that were made here was the Silly Symphony cartoons and the first feature-length animated film of ever, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. This in Ozzy's been rebuilt since then, yeah. It used to look very different. I'll show a photo right now, but a lot of special things happen here. A lot of special historical moments.
Today in the Walt Disney Studios in Hollywood, there is coming into being something entirely new in entertainment. A motion picture called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. The first full-length feature animated production in cinema history. For the past 2 years in the bustling studio buildings, home of Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and the Three Little Pigs, their creator, Walt Disney, and his staff of 600 artists have been working intensively on the first feature, which will be released in January.
The picture that every newspaper and magazine critic is raving about. Hear what the usually hard-boiled reviewer of Time magazine says. Snow White is as exciting as a Western, as funny as a haywire comedy. It combines the classic idiom of folklore drama with rollicking comic strip humor. It is an authentic masterpiece. More than 250,000 paintings like these were created by Walt Disney and his staff of artists to make the most daring adventure in the history of motion pictures, with new and amazing characters. Snow White, warm, human, the lovable Seven Dwarfs. But let Walt Disney tell you about them himself.
Dwarfs' names fit their personalities. This pompous-looking individual is Doc, the self-appointed leader of the group. And this little fellow is Bashful. He's secretly in love with Snow White. And this funny face is Sneezy. He has hay fever. And old Droopy Eyes is called Sleepy. And Happy here with the beaming smile. And old Sourpuss here is Grumpy, the woman hater. And last but not least is Dopey. He's nice, but sort of silly.
White in production, Walt?
I actually started to plan the picture about 1935, and I fooled around with it, trying to get a hold of a story and things for a couple of years, and finally it began to gel. Then I went to work on it, and I finished it the fall of 1938. I didn't know what I had or what would happen or anything. We had the family fortune. We had everything wrapped up in Snow White. In fact, the banker, I think, was losing more sleep than I was. And fortunately, we put it in, premiered it and everything else. Why, everything was fine. The banker was happy.
When Snow White was finally complete and it was shown in the Cartier Circle Theater, it was a major success, and they actually recreated the theater in Disney's California Adventure. Due to the success of Snow White, Walt Disney had enough money to buy the Burbank studio. We are now here at Walt Disney's third and final studio. He bought this studio from the money he made from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He went on to make such movies as Pinocchio and Dumbo here. And this area, this animation building right here is named after Walt's nephew Roy. And then this is the ABC building right here, which obviously they added after Walt Disney's time. And also, right here, you can see that the Mickeys are on the poles. It's pretty cool. This is the official main entrance to the Walt Disney Studios. It still has the Walt Disney Company on the front. It's very cool. And then this is the iconic building right here, the Seven Dwarfs holding the building up right there. You can see 4 of the 7 dwarfs holding the building up. So cool. And right over here, this building over here, the left corner of this building, that is Walt Disney's office right there. That is Walt Disney's office. How cool is that right there? Behind that circular building, that is Walt Disney's office, where he would work on all the movies, eventually Disneyland. That's where it happened. Look at that, Walt Disney Studios sign. This is like the main entrance pretty much. How cool is that? Look at that. That is the Walt Disney Company water tower. There's Mickey. Right there. How cool is that? Despite getting the studio of his dreams, Walt Disney actually had a lot of challenges in the early 40s. One of the main challenges was when World War II happened. It nearly made him bankrupt again, and he was more busy doing propaganda films than doing animated movies at the time. The other main challenge that Walt Disney faced in the early 1940s was the animator strike. It was very bad publicity for Walt, and he was heartbroken because he felt betrayed by the animators. And while all of this was happening, he still decided to continue with animation and achieve his dream. And not long after that, he is going to come up with the biggest dream he has ever had. Guys, do you see what that is? That is the Griffith Park merry-go-round. It's not just any carousel. This is the carousel that inspired Disneyland. Walt Disney sat here with his kids all those years ago and decided to make a theme park for his family and every other family. Thus, Disneyland was born. What an amazing place this is. In Disneyland, you can see an exhibit of one of the actual horses and one of the actual benches from the Griffith Park Carousel.
Where did you originally get the first notion for Disneyland?
Well, it came about when my daughters were very young, and Saturday was always Daddy's Day with the 2 daughters. So we'd start out and try to go someplace with, different things, and I would take them to the merry-go-round, and I took them different places, and as I'd sit there while they rode the merry-go-round, did all these things, sit on a bench, eating peanuts, I felt that there should be something built, some kind of an amusement enterprise built where the parents and the children could have fun together. So that's how Disneyland started. Well, it took many years. It was a whole period of maybe 15 years developing. I started with many ideas, threw them away, started all over again. Eventually it evolved into what you see today as Disneyland. But it all started from a daddy with two daughters wondering where he could take them, where he could have a little fun with them too.
The other main inspiration for Disneyland was the Carrollwood Pacific Railroad, a miniature train that Walt would create in the barn that you see in this video right now. The miniature train that inspired the Disneyland Railroad is actually now in the train station on Main Street, USA.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Disneyland is your land. Here age relives fond memories of the past, and here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future. Disneyland is dedicated to the ideals, the dreams, and the hard facts that have created America, with the hope that it will be a source of joy and inspiration to all the world.
Look at that, it's Walt Disney Imagineering. This is where they come up with all the new stuff, the new, like the new rides and attractions at the Disney parks. Shanghai Disneyland, Disneyland, Walt Disney World, it all happens right here at Walt Disney Imagineering. Walt Disney would be very proud. And this whole area down here is all for, there's a campus here that teaches people how to do Imagineering. And it's really cool to see. Throughout the campus in Walt Disney Imagineering, you'll see this. It looks just like a cast member tag that they would wear at any of the Disney parks around the world. So cool to see the attention to detail here. Walt had finally achieved his biggest dreams. He was a famous movie producer, he had his own animation studio in Hollywood, and he had a giant theme park where everybody, kids and adults, can have fun. But all of that was never enough for him. He always wanted to do the next big thing. He would go on to participate in the 1964 World's Fair. He would even get his own star in Hollywood. And on top of all that, he wanted to work on his most ambitious project that he has ever had.
It's partly in Orange County and Osceola County, between the cities of Orlando and Kissimmee. And the important thing is that the Disney World is located just a few miles from the crossing point of Interstate 4 and Sunshine State Parkway.
Before Walt could ever complete the Disney World project, he unfortunately passed away on December 15th, 1966. Everybody at the Disney company was heartbroken, and as a tribute to Walt Disney, they have a light in his apartment in the firehouse that they keep on at all times to show that he is always at the happiest place on earth. I just want to say thank you so much, Walt Disney, for your hard work, perseverance, and creativity. I and millions of people would not be the way they are today if it wasn't for you and your hard work. Thank you so much. And I know it is your birthday today, so I just want to wish you a happy 120th birthday. I appreciate you, Walt Disney, and everything you have done.